Happy Friday. Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. The president says it's been a, quote, fantastic moment for the country.
Last night, I shook more hands than any human being is capable of doing. That was a long deal, and they were big people. But they were starving for love because our country didn't give them love. They gave them a fist bump. Remember the fist bump in Saudi Arabia?
But on his way back from the Middle East, he's typing away, firing off warnings to Republicans back here at home. Why some conservatives actually just blocked one of the president's big campaign promises. Also tonight, not yet ready. The head of FEMA says his agency still hasn't polished off its plans ahead of hurricane season. The former head of the disaster agency joins us live here in moments. Plus, getting the call up. Homeland Security now wants some 20,000 National Guard troops. A top border advisor is live with us tonight here on The Hill. And would you look at this? It is, of all things, the boss versus the president. Bruce Springsteen trashing Trump abroad.
Tonight, we ask all who believe in democracy and the best of our American spirit to rise with us, raise your voices against authoritarianism, and let freedom ring.
But as you might imagine, the president is responding to all of that tonight. But first tonight, here from The Hill on this Friday evening, the president thinks he did his part, and now he wants Republicans to do theirs. A Middle East trip finished, and a return to Republicans voting down his quote-unquote big, beautiful bill. We begin tonight over at the White House. That, of course, is our Libby Dean, who starts us off this evening. Libby?
Hey, Blake, President Trump wrapping up his marathon Middle East trip, and he's expected back here at the White House later tonight. Now, this trip, it was all about business, and the White House claiming the investment deals President Trump secured during his time overseas totaled out to be more than $2 trillion. Now, a few of those deals include a multi-billion-dollar arms deal with Saudi Arabia, a major aircraft deal between Boeing and Qatar Airways, and an artificial intelligence project in the UAE. All of these things that President Trump...
Our Libby Dean there at the White House. Some audio issues there, but as you can see, the president was on Air Force One today, headed on his way back. A 4-day swing in the Middle East, and now on his way back here stateside. And as that happens, one of the big questions for the president is what happens to that quote-unquote one big, beautiful bill. Republicans today with a big move, and it was not one that the Republican president was looking for. Our Joe Khalil live up on Capitol Hill tonight. Joe, the one big, beautiful bill, and a lot more than one question tonight surrounding it.
No, this was a big setback today, Blake. It did not advance out of the House Budget Committee. It was a big hurdle it needed to cross, and it failed to do so. And it wasn't Democrats. Sure, they voted against it, but it was 5 Republicans on the Budget Committee that voted against it. Ultimately, that was the death knell, more than what was necessary to kill that bill from advancing. So it is stalled right now, President Trump's big, beautiful bill. The 5 Republicans who voted against it wasn't exactly a shock. Blake, they had been projecting this for some time now, saying they had problems with the bill. They didn't think it cut spending far enough. They didn't think it went far enough in terms of Medicaid reforms and in some cases Medicaid cuts. They wanted to see that, and ultimately they didn't, so they couldn't bring themselves to a yes. So where are we now? The budget chairman, Jody Arrington, says there's going to be a Sunday night, 10 p.m. session. That is incredibly rare, but that is the reality now. The clock is ticking for Republican leaders to try to get these 5 Republicans back on board. That means they're going to have to make changes to the bill. Take a listen, though, to what the chairman said and what one of the Republicans who voted against it said shortly after.
The president's been clear. He wants this done. He wants it done at the earliest practical time, and the commitment has been Memorial Day. And we've been on pace or ahead of schedule to accomplish that.
We're concerned that this bill is a balanced bill as well. It doesn't add to the debt, and those are their concerns as well. And so I think they certainly are reasonable. And we're going to work through those.
So, Blake, here's the trick. If you're Speaker Johnson, you got to make changes to appease the hardline conservatives, but too far in that direction might isolate some of your moderates who thought the Medicaid cuts and the spending cuts went too far. That's the balance. They've got 48 hours to make changes before they meet again.
Our Joe Khalil live on this Friday kind of evening, and it'll be a fascinating one Sunday at 10 p.m. here in Washington. Joe, thank you. All right, so as we close out the week here, there's still a lot more, though. Here's what the president, who calls himself America's dealmaker-in-chief, was able to accomplish over in the Middle East. A total of a couple $2 trillion, the White House says, in investments for the U.S. $600 billion from Saudi Arabia, north of $1 trillion from Qatar, $200 billion in the UAE. Now, there's also some more work that needs to be done. That bill that Joe was just referring to stalled. A peace between Russia and Ukraine. There was a meeting in the Middle East as well this week, but that really didn't go anywhere. And Iran is claiming it has not received a proposal from the U.S., despite claims from Washington. With me now, Michael Schnell, congressional reporter for The Hill, Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and Mick Mulvaney, Trump's former White House chief of staff, NewsNation contributor. Hello to you all. Nice to have you all in. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We'll go ladies first here. Michael, the one big beautiful bill is one big complicated mess.
Yeah, to put it one way, yeah. Look, these issues and these undertones of disagreement have been percolating for weeks now, but they finally came to the surface today with that failed vote. As Joe had mentioned, 5 hardline conservatives voting against advancing the big beautiful bill out of the budget committee, essentially leaving it isolated and leaving lawmakers having to cut more deals and make changes to be able to get it through. As he mentioned, 10 p.m., that's the next touch point when they're going to try to move this thing, but it is that extreme balancing act. You've got hardline conservatives who want to expedite the implementation of some of the key provisions. They also want to go deeper with more Medicaid cuts, but then you have some moderate Republicans from high-tax blue states, places like New York, New Jersey, California, who want to increase what's called the state and local tax deduction. That's something that hardline conservatives are against. It seems like if you appease one side, you then create issues with the other. This is the fine line that Mike Johnson has to
Put
walk.
that live shot up of the Capitol because it's raining. The weather is gross right now. We just had some weather come in. You can see the rain there on the lens. But you know what also happened? I don't know if y'all saw it. There was like a double rainbow for a couple minutes. Okay? And I think that kind of shows the moment that we're in. It's a little bit of a mess, but maybe there's some light at the end of the rainbow there.
I love your optimism.
You see what I did there?
I didn't peg you
or is it just rain?
I didn't peg you for the Muppets, the Rainbow Connection. But, look, I think the chances that they will fail, and fail for them would be to not extend the current tax rates, right? So what's the worst case scenario for Republicans, for the country, for everybody, is that they can't even extend the current tax rates. I don't think that happens.
Right.
I think they will figure out some way to at least kick the can. And what happened today is important because now it has triggered a more grown-up conversation because what they've done for almost 5 months is say, like, when we get to the end, it's all just going to work out and we're all going to vote for it and it's going to be fine. And what today signals is, okay, what can we let go? What are we going to have to let go to get this through?
Mick, there was a story that popped this afternoon, and I'm not sure it's getting the attention that it deserves, but it's from the FT, the Financial Times, the headline, U.S. and EU, European Union, break impasse to enable tariff talks. That would obviously be the other big one with China. And I just wonder, Mick, if the president is able to move the ball forward with China, he's able to move the ball forward maybe with the EU and some other trade deals that we're probably going to get here in the upcoming weeks, or at least that'll be announced in the upcoming weeks, or frameworks, however it shakes itself out. The pressure it then puts on these Republicans to deliver on his agenda. I mean, you see him aboard Air Force One. He's typing away saying, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a direct link between the trade talks and the viability of the bill. I think Stirewalt's absolutely right. The bill is going to pass in one way, shape, or form. It almost has to. Keep in mind, these are the Trump tax cuts. And if you don't do anything, it's a tremendous effect. I think it's the largest tax increase in history. So something is going to pass. But they've got a long way between here and there. Listen, as of an hour ago, I thought that maybe it would take months to get through this. But a Sunday night meeting of the budget committee is a big deal. I've been in this town for 15 years, or at least in that town for 15 years. By the way, Blake, the weather in Key West is absolutely fabulous.
Put it in our face.
But a Sunday night meeting, that's significant just in terms of the process, because I think both Michael and Chris will tell you that almost never happens, especially in the House.
Hey, Mick, take me, if you can, what you think the mood is of Trump right now, because he's flying back, he's on Air Force One, he feels this went great, right? Trillions of dollars of investments, but then he's going to land to this, right? And does that sort of sour the mood for him at all? Because there's going to be some reality when he lands.
Look, presidents love overseas visits because they look presidential. I can't remember the last time a president went overseas and came back and his favorability ratings didn't go up a little bit. And I think it'll take a couple days for that to sort of wear off. But yeah, now you're back to actually making the sausage. Trump doesn't care that much about the details. He really doesn't. He wants the taxes extended. Period. End of story. We've said from the very beginning, how long is it big now about one bill, two bills, whatever? Right. At the end of the day, I don't think he cares how it gets done. He just wants it to get done. And that will be the message you hear from him for the next several weeks.
Yeah, he may have had a great time on this foreign trip, but it's going to be a difficult terrain when he gets back. And let's not forget, you had President Trump during the Budget Committee meeting today actually post on Truth Social urging Republicans to unite, saying that they should stop grandstanding. Yet you had this group of recalcitrant Republicans who defied that calling and voted against advancing this legislation. So after today, the president's urging did not help. I asked Ralph Norman, I said, the president urged you to support this. What happened? He said, well, I just don't support it right now. If the president called me, I'd explain to him where I'm coming from.
Real quick, every time, Chris, I hear these Republicans scream, we want this, 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 and that, and then they end up just falling in line for the most part behind the president. Is that sort of the phase that we're in now, the scream?
Well, that's why we lost, the federal government lost the last AAA credit rating that it had today. Moody's dropped our AAA rating. Our debt is becoming less valuable. Our overall economic health is becoming worse because we have a bipartisan ratchet game in which both parties promise to do the hard things when they're campaigning, but then they get in office and you know what they realize? The hard things are unpopular. Let's just jack up the debt again. Let's do one more round. And guys like Ralph Norman, Chip Roy, and others who are serious and say, we're ready to do the hard thing. We're ready to actually cut spending. What they hear from their fellow Republicans in competitive districts is, we are not interested in doing hard things. We want to do popular.
In fact, Andy Harris, chairman of the Freedom Caucus, he's already put out a tweet saying that in light of the Moody's news, he's going to push even harder for the things he's asking for with the big, beautiful bill.
I'll see you both later in the show. Thank you, Mick. Enjoy the Conch Republic. Have a nice weekend, my man.
Have a great weekend, guys.
All right, thank you. Still to come tonight here on The Hill. Storms sweeping across the Midwest. And in the Southeast, you know, it's just weeks away from hurricane season. Tonight, there is an admission from FEMA why their summer plan to deal with danger isn't yet finished. Former head of the agency joins me live, plus tens of thousands of National Guards troops potentially needed. The plans to potentially involve them in mass deportations. Also, President Trump and the boss. Why Trump and Springsteen are singing different tunes. Welcome to Washington. This is the center of politics. I'm Blake Berman. The Hill is back in 4 minutes. Crews are battling 3 wildfires in northern Minnesota. So far, more than 32,000 acres have been burned. That's roughly the size of Minneapolis. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, you know it as FEMA, has approved grants to help cover the firefighting costs. Now, the wildfires are not the only disaster FEMA is dealing with right now, as you might imagine, and hurricane season is just a couple weeks away. FEMA's acting chief, David Richardson, said during an internal meeting that FEMA hasn't finished its plan yet for the rest of hurricane season. Now, Richardson has only been on the job for about a week, and his predecessor was removed from his post by the Trump administration after speaking out against the president's plan to potentially get rid of the agency. Now, FEMA has seen its fair share of both successes and failures recently. For example, just last year, FEMA responded to a disaster surge, including several major disaster declarations. The year before, the agency responded to more than 100 disasters, distributing more than $1.3 billion in funds. but it's also gotten its fair share of criticism as well, including response to the wildfires in Los Angeles. And in North Carolina, some Hurricane Helene victims say they are still waiting for federal funds. In Florida today, NewsNation spoke with Raquel and Keith Poge, who had to rebuild their business after a disaster last year.
We tried through FEMA and we tried through our state and local government, and we were denied all kinds of so we had to do everything through ourselves and through our insurance.
Now, all this comes as the president says he wants to shift storm responsibilities to the states. With me now is the former FEMA director, Michael Brown. He led the agency during Hurricane Katrina. Back with us once again here on the Hill. Michael, always nice to see you, sir. Appreciate your perspective. Yeah, so the headline here is there's not a plan, or at least it's not finished heading into hurricane season, right? I don't know. You have the expertise. Yeah, I'm going to get there because I don't know how you have a plan for an unknown, right? But obviously you need to plan for something. I feel like it's almost like the famous Mike Tyson line, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? So is this concerning to you or no?
What's concerning to me is whether it's true or not, because FEMA always said we have something called the National Response Framework. And within the National Response Framework, you have the National Hurricane Center which provides all the data about what the predictions are, what we can expect. And then you always have standardized plans to fit any disaster, whether it's a hurricane or tornado, whatever it is. So they have standard plans in place. So when I read the stories that say there is no plan, I'm not quite sure what he means by that, because there are standard plans.
They say there's about they're 85% done.
Yes.
And that they expect to get to 100 soon, according to the Wall Street Journal.
I'm sorry, I was getting some cross feed from somebody else. What did you ask, Blake?
I said they say they're about 80 to 85% done and expect to be finished soon, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Well, if that's true, then that means what they're doing is they're putting on some final touches about, do we have, the right kind of money in place? Do we have the right kind of assets in place? Have we talked to the emergency managers in those states that might be affected? Have we actually talked to the National Hurricane Center to see what they're saying? Maybe that's what they mean. But to say that there is no plan, I find that actually incredulous.
Okay. The president and FEMA, we've talked about this before, but he has a different view potentially of what the agency might look like. I want to play it and get your reaction on the other side.
All right.
I'd like to see the states take care of disasters. Let the state take care of the tornadoes and the hurricanes and all of the other things that happen. And I think you're going to find it a lot less expensive. You'll do it for less than half, and you're going to get a lot quicker response.
Michael, you know this from having run FEMA. I know this from having lived in Florida for a good portion of my life. Something inevitable, it's going to happen, right? It is going to happen. There's going to be a disaster somewhere soon, and it's not going to be great.
Right.
When it comes then to, what's the role of FEMA this summer? Maybe put some more of it on the states, and how do you envision all that working out?
Well, first and foremost, get FEMA out of Homeland Security. That's just a bureaucracy on top of a bureaucracy. Make the FEMA administrator, under the Stafford Act, like it has always been, directly reportable to the President of the United States. And then make certain that we start strengthening state and local response, because that statement the president made is correct. We have actually weakened state and local governments by throwing so much money at them, and then they use that money to offset budget shortfalls they have.
Do you worry though that there's going to be some tension if and when something happens this upcoming summer?
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be tension, because right now nobody knows who's on first, who's in charge, and you have all this chaos going on, and somebody just needs to step up and settle down the chaos and just say, here's what we're going to do, for the next 12 months or fiscal year or whatever it is, until we put once again, going back to a plan, putting a plan in place for what we're going to eventually do with FEMA. They need to address that first.
Real quick, give me the hope.
Not a lot. It's Washington,
Come on,
D.C.
There's got to be something, Michael.
Blake, it's Washington, D.C.
All right, we'll leave it there. Michael Brown formerly ran the agency, with us tonight here on the Hill. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet, Blake, anytime.
All right, still much more ahead tonight on this Friday. Border encounters on the decline, security still ramping up, but why is DHS potentially asking for some 20,000 National Guard troops? A top border official joins me live on the other side, plus this.
Raise your voices against authoritarianism and let's
You don't think the president let that slide, do you? Trump versus the boss and where it stands tonight.
If you're in the U.S. illegally, thousands of officers and agents are looking for you. We will arrest you, detain you, fly you to your home country, and bar you from coming back.
All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation, 6:30 here in Washington on this Friday. That was new video featured on the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement social media account today, a signal that the Trump administration is not letting up on its immigration crackdown. Now, in addition to deportations, the Department of Homeland Security is also requesting an additional 20,000 National Guard troops to assist with immigration enforcement. But some believe it's a step too far. For example, the Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth responding by writing, quote, "I'm deeply disturbed that Donald Trump keeps escalating his abuse and misuse of our nation's military for his own partisan benefit." Now, the president's immigration agenda is also facing a new roadblock in court. The Supreme Court just ruled today against the administration's desire to use the Alien Enemies Act in certain deportations, while also sending it back to a lower court to decide its legality. Shortly after, President Trump took to social media saying the Supreme Court won't allow us to get criminals out of our country. With us now, once again, here on the Hill, Senior Advisor at U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Ron Vitello. Ron, thanks for being back with us tonight here on the Hill.
Thanks for inviting me.
Always nice to have you. Let's start with the ruling there, because the president also just said the result of this decision will let more criminals pour into our country. How does this impact what you're trying to do as you see it?
Well, it stops progress from the momentum that's been made. So in less than, just a little over 100 days, we're approaching 200,000 removals. Border traffic, illegal traffic at the U.S.-Mexico border is down to a trickle. And so this is another tool that we were going to use to remove people who were in the country illegally, specifically the Tren de Aragua, which has been designated as a terrorist organization. And we know that the Venezuelan government confers with them on their activity all over the globe. And so Alien Enemies Act was an important tool to remove them quickly.
What do you mean by could slow progress?
Well, we were using that particular authority that's in law, passed by Congress, signed by a president, to remove Tren de Aragua members back to Venezuela.
We're now learning of Department of Homeland Security requesting 20,000 National Guard troops. Why is that request happening, and are they going to be used, as you know it, for apprehensions and arrests, or for other purposes like security and other issues down at the border?
So I haven't seen all the words in the request that I sent over to the Department of Defense. They're considering this request. I think states are going to have to be involved in assigning National Guard. But here's what we want to do, right? Like the momentum we have now at the border, there's 10,000 DOD troops side by side with Border Patrol, augmenting the fence, looking at sensors, helping the agents on the ground. Mexico has deployed 10,000 troops on their side of the border to help keep the smugglers at bay. And so we've made a lot of progress at the immediate border. It's safer than it's ever been in my lifetime. So now this request via ICE to DOD is we want to do some stuff. We want to scale up what's happening in the interior. They're doing a great job in finding criminals all over the country. So they want to do a great job, and they're going to need more boots on the ground to do it.
Is it possible that they could be involved in some of these arrests and some of these apprehensions in cities, large or small, wherever it may be?
This is the ICE mission. They're going after the worst of the worst in every city and town in America. There's tens of thousands of them in each location. And so having that additional support is going to make a big difference for them.
Here's what our Allie Bradley reported this week. She said there's an ICE operation known as At Large. It's looking for agents and processing coordinators to deploy to cities across the U.S., somewhere in the area, I believe, of about 1,900. What can you tell us about that, and what's the mission or the goal there?
Same thing. It is ICE going out and going after the worst of the worst in every city and town in the United States.
So is it fair to say that the sense that I get is you feel things are going well at the southern border, and now you're trying to move into the interior and shift resources and assets there?
And things are going well in the interior as well. ICE is doing a wonderful job. I think they're probably near 100,000 arrests of people who are in the country illegally who have also committed crimes in the jurisdictions in which they are. So they want to scale that up. That's going to require resources. It's going to require more boots on the ground to do more of that.
Are you satisfied with the pace of of arrests at this point in time?
No, operations, we can always do better. You can always do more, and that's what everybody is focused on, from the Oval Office with President Trump all the way down to the line agents in Border Patrol and everywhere else.
So how much, where do you think, or what are you trying to get to?
100% situational awareness on the southwest, on all of our borders. What that means is we know everything that's going on when it's going on, and 100% operational control, and Congress has defined that as preventing every entry illegally into the U.S.
All right, we'll leave it there. Ron Vitello is a senior advisor over at Customs and Border Protection. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice to have you back here on the Hill. All right, still to come tonight, the boss and the president.
The mighty 8th Street Band is here tonight to call upon the righteous power of art, of music, of rock and roll in dangerous times.
That, of course, is Bruce Springsteen going after the sitting president of the United States, and he did so not here in the U.S. Does that sit well? And what the president had to say about another musician as well. Full panel, other side of the break.
Thank you for joining me here on NewsNation.
No matter where you are, America's fastest growing, down the middle, unbiased, breaking news coverage is always at your fingertips. Download the NewsNation app or go to newsnationnow.com to learn how.
The America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
That, of course, Bruce Springsteen on stage in Manchester last night. Manchester, England. Taking a pause there, taking several moments to absolutely unload on the sitting president of the United States during the first leg of his international tour. And that was just one moment.
Tonight, we ask all who believe in democracy and the best of our American experience to rise with us, raise your voices against authoritarianism, and let freedom reign.
And as you probably could have predicted at this point, it's catching all sorts of headlines, including from the president himself. And yes, Donald Trump did react, posting to social media today in part, quote, "I see that the highly overrated Bruce Springsteen goes to a foreign country to speak badly about the president of the United States. Never liked him, never liked his music or his radical left politics." Now, the saying used to be that politics stops at the water's edge, meaning when elected leaders go abroad, the criticism stops. Bruce Springsteen, obviously not an elected leader, but what about that moment, given the phrase, or at least what it used to mean? Full panel here with me now. Nicordelai, give me your last name.
Nicordelai Corte.
Nicordelai Corte, excuse me, sorry about that, as a professor at Pepperdine University. Carla Sands, former ambassador to Denmark and Greenland. Chris Darwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and Michael Schnell, congressional reporter for The Hill. Thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all. I want to start with you because you're an ambassador. You served abroad in Denmark and Greenland, famously now. What'd you make of an American going overseas, and obviously you're a supporter of the president, but going after the sitting president of the United States like that?
Yeah, it's a shame that Democrats don't seem to be following the norms, the rules of the road. My predecessor criticized me and President Trump's policies all during my service. So we're not supposed to do that. We're literally told by the State Department, politics stops at the water's edge. Do not criticize the administration. And so when you're abroad, and that it is something that's not supposed to be broken, shameful that Bruce Springsteen did that.
Do you think that holds, though, for celebrities, athletes, regular American citizens? I mean, he's a private citizen.
Yeah, I don't think anybody cares what celebrities say, as a matter of fact. And the things that he criticized the president for, it sounded like he was talking about Joe Biden, corruption, treasonous, not following the Constitution. Well, those are all things that Joe Biden did. So it kind of feels like he's sort of casting on Trump.
Right spot to do it. He was abroad.
He was abroad, and I think part of the beauty of the United States of America is our freedom is the envy of the world. And whether you're foreign or domestic, you have an opportunity to make your views known, make your voice heard. That's what Bruce Springsteen did in England. And he was very careful. If you look at the video of him delivering his remarks, he was clearly reading something. He's since posted it to his social media. It's on his YouTube channel, so he's not walking away from it. And, you know, he said what the quiet part out loud, what so many Americans and people around the world are reeling over related to the sitting president.
You think he was being careful there? It seemed fairly calculated, right? Like at the beginning of a tour to say it abroad.
Absolutely.
I mean, he could say something whenever he wants and it would go mainstream.
Well, it looked that he was not off the cuff delivering those remarks. They were clearly scripted remarks. He was clearly leaning in and reading something. But, you know, Bruce Springsteen's concert tour is going to be just fine, just like Taylor Swift's going to be fine.
Yeah, the president went after Taylor Swift today, too.
Yeah.
But don't you think he alienated half of his fan base? Like, why would he do that?
I don't think so. I mean, look at what he actually said. He's talking about things that are actually happening. The rolling back of historic civil rights legislation. Right now, the Supreme Court is considering birthright citizenship. And, you know, the Trump administration is pushing to eliminate that, going after America's universities. He didn't say anything that's not happening.
Yeah, I disagree.
Michael?
I think that this underscores that really in this day and age, politics transcends everything. You cannot really be any part of the world, any part of the country, any industry without being involved in politics. So, you know, politics is just everywhere you look now. It's just that's the current polarized state that the country's in right now. But one way to look at it is Bruce Springsteen's a New Jersey guy, Donald Trump's a New York guy.
Yeah.
Maybe they're butting heads.
It used to be, and I know he's not a politician, but that was sort of the standard. We're now in this hyper-connected world in which anything happens at any moment, and that standard's gone.
I cannot make myself care about this even a molecule. Bruce Springsteen has been campaigning for Democrats since at least I covered him campaigning for John Kerry in 2004. Bruce Springsteen is a Democrat. He's an enthusiastic Democrat. He says stuff. At least I don't have to. I mean, can you imagine going to a concert and listening to an elderly pop star lecture you at great length about poli-sci? The only person whose opinion I care less about on these matters than Bruce Springsteen is James Comey. But it works great for Republicans to play victim. It works great for Republicans to say, look at us, they're coming after us. It's like, guys, you have the Congress, you have the White House, you got it all. I don't think your biggest problem is whether pop stars from New Jersey are saying unkind things.
So Bruce Springsteen has had a lot of hits, 12 top 10 hits on the Billboard Top 100, 27 songs total. I didn't know he's never had a number one, but neither here nor there, tons of hits. You know who's had more? The hit king, Pete Rose.
Oh, Lord.
4,256 hits. Major League Baseball, why am I bringing this up? Major League Baseball reinstated Pete Rose earlier this week. And Stephen A. Oh, fist bump for you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Stephen A. Smith had this theory on his podcast. Watch.
And now you know what else we're hearing? That the reason Rob Manfred may have come, we're not sure, but may have come to this decision is because President Trump was pressuring him to do so because he's been wanted. Pete Rose taken off of that ineligibility list. Let's keep our eyes on what President Trump does on behalf of Major League Baseball down the line.
Think there's anything to it?
Look, the president is trying to shape American culture. And these are some of the ways in which he's going about doing it. He's made himself chairman of the Kennedy Center. You might have noticed that the NFL recently are sort of backsliding from their diversity, equity, and inclusion commitments. All this stuff is not a coincidence. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the president put his thumb on the scale there, made his views known. But the question's going to be, how do folks respond to this? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so are these cultural influencers, is their influence going to come back with a vengeance? Right. Or will the president continue to reshape America in his image?
He did meet with Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, a few weeks ago. You think there's something to what Stephen A. says?
Maybe. But I just have to say, diversity, equity, and inclusion, in my opinion, that's discriminatory. So it's unconstitutional and discrimination. So
discriminatory to who?
To the people that are cut out because they're not the right gender or the right color. So we, in America, if we have a meritocracy and the best person for every job gets hired, we have a better country. That's that's the truth. That's how we became.
I don't know if that's the truth. I mean, legacy emissions, that's a form of
we didn't talk about legacy.
So-
we talked about
that a lot of people enjoy.
What about this idea maybe from Stephen A?
It's possible. It's true. I think this gets back to the initial point of you can't look anywhere or do anything without politics becoming involved. I mean, baseball sort of always had the undertones of politics being involved, but we've seen it definitely more. Folks going against different mascots, changing names. Now we have the situation going on with Pete Rose. You can't look anywhere without thinking politics. It's just innately involved in our world now.
Is that kind of the theme here?
Major League Baseball reinstated Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson
and others
because Major League Baseball is in the gambling business now, and you can't really keep people banned for doing something. And Shoeless Joe wrongly accused, but you can't keep people banned for doing something that you're making lots of money on and hawking all the time. The cognitive dissonance of that was just too much, and they knuckled under because money talks and you know what walks. And I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
You are. I know that about you.
I am, and don't care for the Cincinnati Reds. But you can't take anything away from how hard Pete Rose played the game.
I'm kind of shocked Trump hasn't weighed in on this.
Well, I mean, Pete Rose and Donald Trump are the same kind of person, which is they're anti-heroes. They are counterpunchers. I'm sure that Donald Trump sees a lot that he liked in the story of Pete Rose.
All right, we'll see if he comments. The president aboard Air Force One right now, headed back home, of course, from that Middle East swing. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Still to come here on The Hill, something that we call Friday Night Unfiltered. Chris and I talk about some of the best images, best videos, I don't know, whatever it is, because this is the one time of the week that we have no clue what's coming up, but you will get our unfiltered thoughts on the other side. And still to come tonight here on News Nation, Elizabeth Vargas Reports is about 9 minutes away. She's following that massive manhunt in New Orleans after 11 inmates escaped from jail. There's a press conference. If it hasn't happened just yet, it'll be underway shortly. Was this thing an inside job? She's on the story. Chris and I, unfiltered though, other side of the break. On News Nation, the weekend is just about upon us, which only means one thing on a Friday night. Steyerwalt, myself. Ooh, right. Friday night unfiltered. It's the one time of the week where Chris and I have absolutely no idea what the team, great team that works with us here on the Hill, is going to put on the screen. So
too late to suck up to them. You can't call them a great team because they've already put the pictures in. You don't know what's in there.
Put the first one up. What's one of the big images of the week? Let's see it. Oh yeah, this was interesting. I thought this. Do you know what this is?
This is what's the name of the building?
It's I believe the tallest building in the world.
Is that the Burj Khalifa?
Yes, I believe that's it. In the Middle East. Yep, that's it. And in the middle of the president's trip there, they had the American flag on the world's tallest building.
Don't you think that every other place in the world that Donald Trump goes for the rest of this term, he will say like, they were much nicer to me. They were much nicer, because if there's one thing that they can do in these petro-states, they don't have voters to worry about. They don't have to worry about public opinion. They can suppress dissent. They can lay it on, and they have all this dough. I particularly enjoyed it in the one country that said they were going to give $1.6 trillion, invest $1.6 trillion, and it was like 6 times their GDP. So you just tell the man what he wants to hear and hope you get a good deal.
I covered Trump in the first term, South America, Middle East, Asia, and of course here across the U.S. I could tell you on the foreign trips, they like roll the red carpet out. No matter where you are, they roll it. I remember we were in Italy one time, and like the Air Force came over with all the colors and everything.
Well, the military parade that we're going to have in Washington was inspired by what he saw in France.
There you go. All right, so that's the first one. Second one for us. What do we got?
Delicious meat.
That is delicious.
Oh, that looks like ribs.
How about that right there, though?
And some sausages. Yeah.
And
you want me to talk about the news? I'm focused on what kind of rub you'd put on that, brother.
And Walmart, which, they say they're going to raise prices, and it's a result of of the actions, and this is what the president's going to come home to.
Well,
not the meats, but the Walmarts.
We have not yet felt the consequences of the tariffs, right? We've seen anticipation, we've seen markets fluctuate, but it's taken all this time for the ships and for the tariffs to really go into place. So we had a not bad inflationary score this week, but the hard part is still to come.
Dow turned positive today, I think, for the first time this year to date, but one of the many variables. All right, what's the last one we have here? Best images of the week. I actually don't blame them. I don't blame them.
No.
So, folks are going to dunk on them. These are members of Congress who were sleeping, and you're like, stop sleeping, you're on the job. But this goes to show, Chris, that they were working throughout the night to try to get the president's agenda passed. They're laughing about it, right? But I think it goes to show how they're trying to get the president's agenda passed, but they're not there yet.
They're not there yet. And, look, this is a long process. It's a difficult process, and they should have started sooner. Like me, cramming for exams when I was in college, it was about this time of the year.
Right.
And you're trying to cram and learn everything and do it all at the end. You can't get it all done at the end. They should have started their homework on this a long time ago.
Show me the graphic of the best Sunday show in the business so we also can take that video off as well. Who you got this weekend?
Oh, my gosh. Look, we've got Ryan Zinke, congressman from Montana. We've got Jennifer McClellan, congresswoman from Virginia. We got a Republican. We got a Democrat. We've got the great George Will.
Cool.
We have the best in the business panel of journalists. It's going to be fantastic.
You indeed. 10 a.m. Eastern, Steyerwalt, The Hill Sunday. You are not going to want to miss it.
Could be ribs. You never know. It could be ribs.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And we thank you for watching us here on The Hill, not only tonight, but for the entire week here. I'll be back Monday.